Hello, oil painters. I'm doing a series of short demonstrations. I hope you enjoy them. I'm Martin Kinnear, by the way. What I'd like to do today is take this rather unfortunate underpainting for one of the Gust of Wind paintings by Jean-Baptiste Camus Corot. And on this Corot sketch, what I want to do is get it towards that 19th century tonality. Lots of options for that. Let's look at some of the stuff on the bench. There we go. So essentially, I can use a medium or an oil. Now, these two are oils. This is a stand oil, very common in the period. And this here is a burnt plate oil. That's simply stand oil, which has been cooked. Useful for Rembrandts and maybe Baroque paintings, but maybe slightly dark for a Corot. The darkness does let off a bit, of course, when you spread it out. Now, what I've got here are some more sort of traditional style mediums. These are oils. These are resins. I say traditional because actually, in the 19th century, resins were very common. Oils, in a way, were being less used. So what I've got here is the modern equivalent to traditional resins. This is called Galkyd. This is called Gamsol. And if you mix the two together, you get a half and half medium. That's a good standard medium. Now, in the 19th century, a very traditional medium was called Megilp. And Megilp was linseed oil or mastic and sugar of lead. And that makes Megilp. Now, the modern version of Megilp, Neo Megilp, doesn't contain lead and it doesn't yellow. And that's a really good shout for this particular project. So I'll put that on my palette, just squeeze some out, and take a clean brush, cleanish brush, and just get some on the brush. It's not necessary to be super clean with this because it's going to be quite a tonal painting. And with the Megilp, the first thing we tend to do is drop down what traditional painters used to call a couch. The couch is a layer of medium. And that layer of medium, so the brush is not quite clean, that layer of medium just lubricates the painting and creates an open surface on which to paint. Now, of course, you can glaze in small bits, small to big, but it would be more traditional, would be more normal to glaze big to small. So take a big flat brush, coat your study with a thin layer of medium. It can be linseed oil, very thin in that case. It can be Neo Megilp. It can be any of the traditional media you like. And take a piece of rag and gently lay it off so you know you've got a nice, slick, but viscous lubrication. And now we're going to take a colour. For this, I'm going to use a transparent yellow oxide, which will give them the tonality of a coral. I'll just show you that quickly, if I may. So here's the transparent yellow oxide. I'm loading it on the brush, so it's nice and even. And it should drag slightly on the palette. You don't want too much paint. So I'll take this paint and just gently glaze it over the entire painting. And it's being picked up by that couch of Megilp. And because Megilp is a transitional medium, it makes it really easy to get these lovely soft blends in, which the Italians call fumato. I'll move the camera across for you slightly. There we go. You can see I'm not painting around anything. I'm painting over things. And just like any glaze, glazes reduce range, and range is saturation, opacity, temperature, and value. And by reducing the range of this picture, the contrast of it, I'm making it more close toned. Glazes kill chroma. glazes kill contrast, which is what you want in a colour. You want this soft feel to it. I'll now take a little bit of a soft black. My soft black, by soft I mean weak. This wheat black is called Van Dyke brown, and it's a very common material in the period. And it's going to be the base for the ground. And again, I'll work over the ground in quite an aggressive way. And just above it too. A good tip with any kind of glazing is to overglaze, is make your glaze too big. And by making the glaze too big, finding it doesn't dry too fast, you can cut back into it, as you'll see in a second, to get your half tones back. It's far more efficient to make the glaze too big. On the original coral, all of this ground essentially appears to be a dark form. So I'll slowly glaze it. As I said, I'm reducing contrast here by reducing the range or the difference in the painting. I'm not using any fancy brushes, just a simple, large, flat brush. I'll also take that simple black, Van Dyke brown, and just start to find the trees. You see, I'm dropping the brush onto the edge here a little bit, so I'm getting more of a transitional edge. And again, this will just start to mask those forms in a very Corot-esque way. And by closing those forms down, we're getting that 19th century look. This is the thing the Impressionists kicked against, of course. Right, back on. This is the thing the Impressionists kicked against, of course. They wanted their colours to be vibrant and bright and direct. This is none of those things. So if you like vibrant, bright, direct, maybe catch one of my Impressionist painting demonstrations. Just lightly vignetting the sky here to get this smoky feel. This is all upon that original Megilp couch. Now you'll notice, guys, I'm not washing my brush, because the death of this is if you get solvent on here, that solvent will break this medium layer, this medium couch. And all the medium really is a varnish, in effect. So by breaking the varnish with a solvent, you'll create varnish rings, and that's the last thing you want for a transitionally blended picture like this. So keep your brush nice and dry, keep your brush nice and flat, except when doing transitional edges. And above all, don't get solvents on it. And you can see by dropping down these couches of medium, followed by these transitional glazing colours, I'm starting to get some light gathering here. This hasn't changed. In fact, if anything, it's got less contrasting because of the glaze. But because I'm closing everything else down, this in effect is opening up. And now I'm going to cut back through that glaze and just re-reveal some of the light underneath. And if you've struggled with some Hudson River School painting, for instance, or some Barbizon School, or Hague School, or Turners, or Constables, or anything classical, even sergeants, I guess, to a point, struggle getting those quarter tones and half tones and transitional edges, what the Italians call fumato, smokiness. Often it's about dropping down over big glazes, using a gel medium such as Megilp for preference, and then cutting back into them. And that will give you what you need. It's a really simple system. I'll just drop some light in this path, just here and there, picking up bits of stone. Not too much. Now, of course, if you're doing this seriously, this is just a quick demonstration today. If you're doing it seriously, you'd spend a bit more time on this. and take a bit more care and go into it again. But as you can see, it's actually a really simple system. This is also the way to get that flickering light you see in a John Constable. I'm a huge fan, being a British painter, of Mr. Constable's Oud. There you go. Not very Corot-esque, but I do like a Constable. And that's a really quick demonstration of dropping down what we call a couch or a unifying glaze. And the point of that, the purpose of that, is to create a unified colour across the entire painting, a glaze colour, which you can then cut into to get those very elusive half tones. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Bye.